Boker Tov. We have with us Emil Hadan this morning in Florida. That's a big.
Pleasure is all mine.
All right, let's just put this somewhere where you could stand. Let's see. I put this over here. I got it on the phone. If you Gemara Ketubot Daf Kuftet. Our Masechet been dedicated by Mr. Elliot Chash in honor of his wife Esther, in honor and Aslaha of Bnei Betam. Amen. So we begin today's daf on Kufhet Amud Bet. We're on the bottom line, and we're at the Mishnah. Matnitina Posek Ma'ot Hatano. So a guy promised money for his son-in-law. The old custom was before they get married, the father-in-law comes along and says that he's going to give his son-in-law a certain amount of money. Upashat lo etaregel. Now, this literally means that he went bankrupt. He doesn't have any money. Now, it's important to understand where they got this terminology for bankruptcy, pashat lo etaregel, so that she brings two interpretations. One is as if he extends his foot to the person and it says, I have nothing except the dirt on my feet. If you want that, I could pay you in that. So pashat lo etaregel is basically saying, all I have is dirt and dust. The second interpretation is that she brings is, even if you hang me on a tree and basically turn me upside down, no money is going to fall out of my pockets. I have nothing. So pashat lo etaregel, even if you take me off my feet and you put me on the tree, basically hang me, I still don't have what to pay. And that's the modern Hebrew today. They still use that. Pashat etaregel. They learned that that is a shitat regel, is a form of bankruptcy, and they got it from the Mishnah. If you want to just read in Rashi, David, read us the Rashi in Pashat etaregel. Lashon. Right, take the tar and the dirt that's on my feet. Right, hang me on the tree where my feet are not touching the ground, and I still won't have anything to pay you. Anyway, what's the law? So the Mishnah comes along and says, Tesheb ad shetalbin rosha. So the daughter has to sit and wait until she gets old with white hair. That's literally what it means. What does it mean to say? That the Hatan basically can hold up the marriage and say, listen, your father promised me money. Either he forks up the money and I get married. Otherwise, I'll hold you and I'm not giving you a get. So therefore, she sits as an old maid, basically, until her hair turns white, until the father is ready to make good on his promise. Admon Omer, Yecholai Shetomar. Admon comes along and says that the girl could say, Ilu ani pasakti le'atzmi, eshev ad shetalbin roshi. Listen, if I made the deal with my husband, I understand why I should sit and wait until I make good. But I didn't make the deal over here. This is my father's deal. Basically, she could say, what do you want me to do? He made the deal. Just because he doesn't want to pay, I should sit as an old maid. The Gemara says, and therefore, okenos, let him either marry me, or pitor, or let him release me. Amar Rabban Gamliel, I see that the opinion of Admon makes sense. Gemara, matnitin delohi kaitana. Our Mishnah is not following the opinion of the following Tana. It's actually the Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya, we have a Tosefta. Amar Rabbi Yosef and Rabbi Yehuda. Lo nehliku Admon b'hachamim. There's no argument between Admon and the Hakamim. Ala posek ma'ot lahatano upashat etaregel. The guy promised money and then he went bankrupt. Sheikolai shetomar. Everybody agrees in that case. She can say, "Abba pasak alai ma ani yikola la'asot." So it's not like we learned in the Mishnah. According to Tosefta, everybody will agree. Even Hakamim, if the father gave the money, she could always say, "What do you want from me? Why should I be held up? Because my father promised." Everybody will agree in that case, with even the Hachamim, that he has to give her a divorce right away or marry her right away. He cannot hold her up. So where's the mahloket? Aman nehleku al shepaska hi al atzma, where she came along and made a pledge to her husband to be. And what's the mahloket? Hachamim omrim tesheb ad shetabin rosha. Okay, we understand Hachamim. You made a pledge, that you're going to give your husband a certain amount of money. So until you give the money, you have to sit and wait. What's Edmon's opinion? Edmon Omer, Yechoda ish shetomar kespura ani she'aban noten alai. Why did I make a pledge? I thought my father's going to pick up the bill. I thought my father's going to take care of it. But now I see my father's want to back me up. What do you want me to do? Either marry me or or release me. I see again the opinion of Admon to be correct. Tana, we have a braita, which means, when do we say, according to the Hakamim, when she came along and pledged money, and therefore the Hakamim said, what, Tesheh, she has to sit until she turns white. When is that said? Begedolah. That's only talking about if she's an adult. If she's a gedolah. But if she was a minor, kofin, we force. We force who? Kofin leman. If you're going to come along and say that we force the father, what do you mean? The opposite makes more sense, which means, why would you force a father to fulfill what a ketana says? The words of a ketana is nothing. And if anything, we should make the father fulfill the words of a gedolah, where they're more and more standing. That she says on the top, that she in. Right. If you want to enforce any of them, it should be more the enforcement of the gedolah and not the ketana.
Force the father. Why can't we always force the father? All these cases. If that was a possibility, every single case we should force the father.
What do you mean every single case?
In other words, why is it coming up now that we can force the father? If that was a possibility, then even the Mishnah should have brought up that we can force the father. Now, obviously, we can't force the father. He's not around. No.
I'm not following. We redefine the mahloket. We're not learning the Mishnah originally like we learned it anymore. Now we're learning over there's a mahloket when a lady makes a pledge. Can she blame it on the father that the father doesn't want to pay? That she only made the pledge based on that her father's going to pick up the tab. So Hakamim come along and say that she can't say that. She made the pledge. But Admon comes along and says that no, she can say, listen, what do you want from me? I thought my father's going to take care of it, and he doesn't. Therefore, okenos or petor. And the Gemara is just saying that only makes more sense that the father should have to pick up the tab when she's a gedolah, because at least her words are something. But if her words are of a ketana, then certainly her words are nothing. Why would you even make the father pick it up as well? Kofin laba liten get. And that's what the Gemara means over here. When the Braita says kofin means laba liten get. And if it's a ketana, since the ketana, her words are not words anyway, in that case over there, we force the Baal to give a get, because a pledge is not a pledge, and that's why in that case. But if she's a gedolah, indeed, according to the Hakamim, she has to sit, because she made a pledge, her word is a word, and she's got to wait until her father will help her out. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar Shemed Haskiyah Kol Makom She'amar Ban Gamliel Ro'eh Ani Et Devrei Admon Halacha Kimoto. Now we saw a couple of times already that Admon had made a halakha statement, and Ban Gamliel came along and said, it seems to me that Admon is right. And now Rabbi Yitzchak is saying that any time that Ban Gamliel supported Admon, the halakha is going to be like him. Amar le Rabbi Rav Nachman, afilu bebaraita, even in Braito, because we only saw this so far in Mishnayot. But what about if you see this concept in a Braita? Amar le Mishnah. Did I limit my statement to Mishnayot? I did not. I said every place. No difference between Mishnah and no difference between Braita. Amar Rabbi Zera, Amar Rabba bar Yirmiyah. Shne devarim she'amar Hanan, two halachot that Hanan said. That's another Tana. Halacha kayotzebo. The halacha follows the one that agreed with him. We learned earlier that twice Rabbi Yohanan ben Zakkai supported the opinion of Hanan. And therefore we're saying that whenever Hanan made something, we follow the one that supported it, which is Rabban Yohanan ben Zakkai. However, Shiv'ah Devarim She'amar Admon, the 7 halachot that Admon said, En halacha kayotzebo. The halacha is not like the one that supported Admon. Who is the one that supported Admon? Rabbi Gamliel. So it sounds like Hanan we take, Admon we don't. The Gemara says, wait, my ka'amar. What is exactly you're saying here? Ilima, maybe you mean to say, Haki ka'amar. Shne devarim she'amar Hanan, halakha kimoto v'kayotzebo. That the 2 things that Hanan said, and the Ban Yochanan Ben Zakkai backed him, halakha is like him, and Shiv'ah devarim she'amar Edmon, and the 7 things that Edmon said, en halakha kimoto v'lo kayotzebo, that halakha is not like Edmon and the one that supported him. But what do you mean? We just learned a second ago. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. We just learned a second ago. Rabbi Yitzchak ben Azar told us, Mishemet Chazkiya, Kol Makom Shamar Rabban Gamliel Roe Ani Yetevrei Admon Halakha Kemoto. Then Adrabah, we do take Admon and we do take Rabban Gamliel who supported him. So you can't tell me that we're not going to take Admon. Ela Hakik Amar Shne Devarim She'amar Hanan Halakha Kemoto V'Chayotzebo Shim'a Devarim She'amar Edmon. The 7 things that Edmon said. En halakha kayotze bo, which means the 7 things that Edmon said is halachot. En halakha kayotze. We're not going to follow Rabban Gamliel, and therefore, because Rabban Gamliel followed Edmon in three cases. So the Gemara says, ha kemoto halakha bechudu. Ela the halakha is like Edmon, not only in 3 cases, but in all 7. Rabban Gamliel only took Edmon in 3. So he said, we don't go like Rabban Gamliel that said it's 3. We go more than 3. We go 7. Yeah, but what do you mean? Go back to that statement of Rabbi Yitzchak ben Elazar in the name of Chazkiah. Wherever Rabban Gamliel says halakha like Edmon, halakha kemoto. What does that sound like? Amar in. Lo amar lo. Sounds like only where he said it, the 3 cases. But where he didn't say it, we don't go like Edmon. So how are you telling me that the halakha is like Edmon in all 7, where from the Yitzchak it sounds like halakha is like Edmon only where the Rabban Gamliel expressed it, and he only expressed it in 3 out of the 7. The Gemara says, Ela, final interpretation, Hachi ka'amar, Shne devarim she'amar Hanan, halakha kemoto v'chayotzebo. So when it comes to Hanan, we take his halachot as explained by Rabbi Yochanan. Shiv'ah devarim she'amar Edmon, the 7 things that Edmon said. Now we explain. Yesh mehem shalakha kemoto v'chayotzebo. Certain, some of them we go with him, and v'yesh mehem she'en halakha kemoto ela kayotzebo. And some of them that what? The halakha is not like him, only like Rabban Gamliel that supported him. And what is that? Wherever Rabban Gamliel said the halakha is like Edmon, halakha kemoto, which is 3. Inach lo, but the other 4, no. So basically it's coming out with exactly what we said, that the halakha only follows Edmon in 3 out of the 7. The 3 that Rabban Gamliel supported, then we're going to say, but otherwise, halakha does not follow Edmon. So all the statements now are reconciled. Okay, so now the Gemara Mishnah continues. Matnitin, interesting case, Rabotai. Ha'orel al hasadeh. What is orel al hasadeh? Let's read Rashi to give us interpretation of this case. Reuven.
Reuven me'arel al hasadeh shebiyad Shimon. Ve'omer levi shemachra lecha.
Yeah, which means Levi comes to Shimon and he comes along and he says, hey, that field, Shimon, that you are possessing is actually my field and it's stolen, which means this shtar mechira. He shows a shtar mechira, Shimon. Hey, what do you mean? I bought it. You bought it because Levi stole it from me. So therefore, basically, you bought stolen property. And therefore, the Reuven is claiming that the field of Shimon that he's possessing belongs to him. That's a big claim. So ha'orer means he has a claim. Ha'orer ala sadeh. But listen to this. Ve'u hatum aleha be'ed. He is a signator on the shtar mechira to Shimon. Reuven is one of the witnesses that actually signed the sale. But now it's a problem. You're saying it's your field. You signed on the shtar to sell it to Shimon. That's a problem. And that's contradictory claims over here. How are you claiming that it's your field when you actually signed the shtar to sell it? And now you're coming along and say, oh, no, it's stolen. What do you mean? You signed the shtar to sell it to Shimon. Gemara said, no. Levi sold it, but Reuben signed on the shtar of the sale to Shimon.
As a witness, okay.
But I understand what happened over here.
Yeah.
Repeat it again. The Reuven is coming to Shimon and saying the field that you bought is stolen, belongs to me. Shimon produces a document as what are you talking? You signed. You're one of the two signers on the shtar of the sale. So does that mean? What did you scream? You should have screamed and said, "Hey, it's stolen. What are you selling the field over? It's my field. At least you signed." So we have a big mahloket over here. Admon Omer. Admon comes along and says, "Hasheni noachli harishon kashe hemenu." He can come along and say, "Listen, why did I sign this shtar? The guy who stole the field from me, he's a bully. I can't get the field from him. So it was easy for me to sign the shtar to get the field in your possession, because it's easy for me to get the field from you than it is to that guy." He has an alibi why he signed the shtar. He's coming along and saying, "Listen, this guy Levi who stole the field, guy's a bully. How am I going to get the field from him?" So therefore, when it went up for sale, I said, "Yuri, I'll sign the shtar, get the field away from Levi, get it to Shimon, and now it's easy for me to deal with Shimon." So therefore, it's not a contradiction that I signed the shtar. I just signed the shtar because it'd be easy for me to recover my property. That's what he's coming along to say. Read Rashi at the Mon Omer, Yachol hu.
יכול הוא שיאמר מה שלא הרערתי בשעה שלקחת מלוי וחתמתי בתוך השטר עד, לפי שלוי אדם חזק וקשה להוציאה בידו, ונוח לי שתהא בידך שהוציאנה ממך בדין.
Hine, Parashat Noach, Rabotai. You see, we have a siman in the Daf Yomi. Noach is mentioned in Rashi, and that's the parasha of the week. So there's your remez for today's Daf. Noach. Okay, that's the opinion of Edmon. V'hachamim omrim, ibed et zechuto. Stop playing games. Ibed zechuto. You signed the shtar, and you're an ed on the shtar. You didn't say anything. Therefore, you gave up your rights. Ibed et zechuto, because you signed the shtar. What do you mean? You want to play both ways? You don't have a right to come along now and give an alibi and explain why you signed the shtar. No, it says asa'an siman le'acher. But let's say he was involved in making a siman for somebody else. Now, what does it mean? Asa'an siman le'acher. So that she explains this case. Asa'a hamuhzak, which means the guy who's holding the field, Shimon is holding the field, right? He's on the field. And now what? There's a field that comes up next to his field to be sold. So therefore, they got to write the borders exactly where Shimon's field ends in order to know where the next field that's adjacent begins. So that she says, the muhzak, Shimon who's holding the field, he made a siman, Shalom machal Reuben, ze ha'orer aleha, he wasn't selling his field. He sold the adjacent field to somebody else. And when they were selling the adjacent field to somebody else, he got Reuben to be a witness that signs, yes, I know exactly where the border is in order that the adjacent field could be sold. And they write the four borders because it's a square, so they got to write all the four fields. ועשה שדה סימן מצד אלוקח ובשמו של מוכר, וזה חתם על אותו שטר ולא ערער. And he signed exactly where the borders are, which means these are the borders of Shimon's field. And therefore, the guy who's buying the adjacent field can only take from the border and on. And the Reuven is signing. In that case over there, ibed et zechuto. Why ibed et zechuto? Because over here, he doesn't have the claim that he has in the first. In the first, he said, I'd rather you keep the field so I don't got to fight it against the Ganab, against the Levi. But over here, what are you signing the start for? He has the field already, Shimon. And then we'll go after Shimon. What's your alibi now by saying, yeah, I signed on the start delineating the borders. Why'd you sign that start for? Oh, because I wanted it to be in Shimon's possession. It's in his possession already, the first field. So therefore, there's no reason for you to sign it. The fact that you signed it, even Admon will agree, ibed et zechuto, that's showing you that you agree that those borders legally belong to Shimon, and therefore you have no claim after. Amar Gemara, Amar Abaye, Lo Shanu Ela Ed. All this is talking about when we say that the Me'orer, the guy who has the claim, loses his zikut, like we said according to Edmon, I'm sorry, according to Hachamim, Ibed Zikuto. What's that talking about where he's an Ed? Abal Dayan lo Ibed Zikuto. But if he was a judge in the sale, the judge is not necessarily an admission that he loses his field. Why not? Interesting. You learned the lesson now in Betin. You're not going to sign a document as an ad unless you read the document. I mean, basically, you have to testify on everything on the document that's emet. How can you sign your name if you didn't read it? So therefore, if the guy signed his name, that what? Yes, I am a witness that Levi sold the field to Shimon. You signed, and you know, and you can't claim I didn't know what I was signing, and therefore ibed zikuto. But a judge, he doesn't have to read the document. A judge is not verifying the information in the document. The judge is just verifying the signatures. And therefore, he looks at the two signatures. He verified that the signatures are emet. What are they signing on? Who knows what they're signing on? The judge has to read 42 documents to know exactly what the deal was. He just has to verify that the witnesses that signed are kasher. So therefore, you can't claim embedded zikuto if he was a judge because he doesn't know what he was signing. He doesn't know what he was signing. I didn't know I was signing that I was selling the field from the Uven to from Shimon, from Levi to Shimon. That was my field. Hey, but you were a judge. When I was a judge, I just judged that the witnesses were okay, but I didn't know that it was my my field that was being sold. Look at the top Rashi. But dayanim chotmim. Top Rashi. But dayanim chotmim bekiyum. They just testifying the star is a legitimate star. They came to us, they presented a star, the witnesses were vetted properly, and they admitted that's their opinion. What's said in the star? Who knows? Okay, Asa'an Siman Nached. The second part of the Mishnah was what? Asa'an Siman Nached. That if Reuven actually signed the star as an ed, and he was exactly testifying the borders, where the borders were, so then already that's an admission that the field does not belong to him, and therefore everybody will agree ibed et zechuto. Amar Abaye lo shanu ela le'acher, which means this is only talking about that we're talking about that he sold the muhzak le'acher, which means the Shimon who's holding the field sold the adjacent field to somebody else. That's the case we're talking about over here, and he signed it. Reuven. But in the case over here, le'atzmo, where he actually sold the adjacent field to the Uven, to the Me'orer, then already the deen is lo ibed zekuto. He doesn't lose his rights. Why? The amar ilo idelo avde lehachi lo avem mezaben le nihale. Exactly. Listen, I don't want to fight with Shimon and start telling him that that's my field. So you know what? First of all, I wanted to buy the field that it's adjacent. I wanted to get that field. So I played dumb. I signed the shtar and all that in order to buy the field. And I signed the borders that belonged to Shimon. But I only signed it because I didn't want to fight with Shimon because otherwise he's not going to sell me the adjacent. So he has an alibi again. Understand his alibi? Reuven wants to buy the adjacent field. So he says, I'm not going to fight with Shimon now yet and tell him that the field he's on belongs to me. Because if I start fighting with him, he'll never sell me the adjacent. So therefore, I signed the shtar here, the borders and all that, but I'm going to visit him later on after I get the adjacent field. Now, what are you going to have a claim? The claim, Shimon could say, what are you talking about? You should have done a moda'ah. What is a moda'ah? You should have went in front of two people at least and file a protest and say, listen, I know I'm signing this paper over here, but I want you to know that I'm only signing it but not as an admission that the field is his, it's mine. That's called a moda'ah. Why didn't you let two people know? The fact that you didn't let anybody know shows that what? That it's not your field. No, he has a counterclaim. What can the Reuven say? Havra itle. Havra itle. A friend has a friend, and the friend of your friend also has a friend, which means what? People talk. What do you think? I'm going to go in front of two people and say what? The field is mine. One guy's going to say to somebody else, and then the friend's going to say to somebody, and then it's going to get back to Shimon. Before you know it, Shimon's going to say, what? There's talk over here that you own the field. I'm not selling you the adjacent field. So therefore, he could claim the reason why I didn't say it to anybody is because habra habra'it. And therefore, I didn't want the voice to get out, and that's why I signed the shtar only so I could get the adjacent field, but not. It was not an admission that the field that Shimon is on does not belong to me. Actually, it does. It belong to me as well. If you really want to read Rashi, limemsar moda'a. Exactly. The reason why I kept quiet is because the guy's not going to sell me the field. And what are we worried about? Havra, itle, v'yodi'uhu. They're going to end up telling Shimon. And what's going to happen when they start telling Shimon? They shuv lo yimkor lo. Not going to sell them anymore. All right, so that's that. Now let's continue the book. Okay, let's do a story. Guy made a siman le'acher, which means a guy signed on the shtar and he wrote the signature. Yes, I'm an ed. This is the borders. Very nice. And then what happened? And then he came along and said, "Hey, by the way, that field that I signed on, the borders, it's mine." Like exactly how Mishnah. But now it's a new case. What happened? Ushchiv. He died. Now what happened? The Ukim apotropa. Before he died, he put an apotropos in charge of the estate to represent the orphans. Ata apotropa lekamed abaye. Now look at this. This is what we talk about, a good apotropos, a good lawyer. The apotropos comes now, and he's representing the Yatomim. So now he comes to the Yatomim, and what's the case again? Listen, he's got a shtar from the deceased guy that signed that, yes, the field was sold, these are the borders, but now the guy before he died is claiming it's his field, but he's not allowed to defend himself anymore. Now the apotropos has to fill in for the deceased. Elmaleh, Rabbi says, sorry, Asa'a siman la'acher ibed et zechuto. Sorry, Mr. Apotropos, it's a Mishnah mefureshet in Ketubot. If he signs a shtar that gives the simanim of the borders, ibed et zechuto. Sorry, go tell the Yetumim that you're representing, they're out. They have no property. Property belongs to the mahzik, not to the deceased. Well, this apotropos over here was smart. And he comes along and says, Mechila, Abaye, I have a claim. Amar, Ihava Abu Hondi Yatbe Kayam, Hava Ta'id Ve'amar, Telem Echad Asiti Lecha. Listen, if the deceased was alive, he could have had a good claim. What would the deceased say? He would say, by the way, I'll tell you why I signed the borders. Because actually, the borders belong to this guy, but the rest of the field belongs to me. I only signed the borders because I gave him the borders, the 4 borders.
Like an easement?
Yeah, a thin piece of the field. So basically, 100%. This border that I signed on is his, but the rest of the field belongs to me. So therefore, what do you mean? If he was alive, he could have said that. So he's not alive. So I'm claiming that for the Yatomim. Elmaleh. So what did Rabbi say when he heard that? Shapil ka'amar. You know something you said very good. Da'amar Rabbi Yochanan im ta'an ve'amar telem echad asiti lecha ne'eman. Exactly. He can come along and say telem echad. Okay, but now it seems Rabbi says, fine. That's your claim? Yes. That is my claim. So he says to him, Zil have lebiha telem echad. You got to give it to him. Give the mazik at least one telem. Give him one row. If that's your claim, so you have to fulfill your claim now. You can't take the whole field for the Yatomim. You have to leave one row of the border and give it. Now he comes along and says, you have to know, on that border, there was a row of trees. So Ambarleh, so what does the apotropos say? If the father of the Yatomim was alive, he could have said like this: Hazarti velakahti mimenu. I rebought it from him. As if the father was alive. He could have came along and said, listen, for sure, I wrote the shtad, and I was saying that border, that one line, belongs to Shimon, let's say. But I bought it back from him. I bought it back from him. Prove it. I bought it back from him. So he comes along and he says, wow, that's a good claim. And therefore the Put is saying, since he could have claimed it, I'm also going to claim it as well. Amarle, Shapir Kamar. He said, good. The Amar Rabbi Yohanan, Im Ta'an ve'amar, Hazati v'ulkahtiv memenu, ne'eman. Which means he doesn't even have to bring a proof, because this follows the law of Hapeh she'asar, Hapeh she'hetir, which means they're coming along to say, the idea that are testifying that what? That this field belonged to the father and was stolen. And therefore, which means the whole proof that this guy, the mazik, owns the telem, owns the rope, is because we admitted it. They're saying, no, we gave him a telem. He's claiming along, really, the whole thing is stolen. But the telem is yours. Which means, so therefore, a pesha asa, the peh that gave you the telem is pesha tir. Take what you have to believe me, what? That the whole thing belongs to you, because I could have said the whole thing is stolen. The fact that I gave you the telem, that's only on my testimony. So therefore, if I wanted to lie, I could have said better. I could have said nothing belongs to you. The whole field is stolen. But the fact that I was more there, that the telem is yours, I could have had a bigger claim. I could have said nothing is yours. And therefore, the father is ne'eman to say, I bought it back. Anyway, when he heard this, and Bayer comes along and he said, and just read that she for a second, that she says, on the Bura Matril, Havle, okay, read all these that she's, Havle miha telem ehad. He told them, give him a telem. Read that sheet, le'ahad. Right, you got to give him one furrow. You got to give him one row. That's what you say. Haba. Ne'eman. Right. This guy had proof. Right. This guy basically had proof that the field was stolen. And then he's coming along and saying, but I'm going to give you the telem. The telem is yours. He didn't have to say that. He could have just said the whole thing was stolen. The fact that he gave him the telem, he has an emanut to come along and say, and I bought it back. And therefore, basically this apotropos is doing good work over here. Yeah.
Rabbi, how does he have a pesha aside without pesha tir? Without mentioning telem, if he didn't mention the telem, then his testimony, his statement on the side would have obligated him to acknowledge the entire thing. So the fact that he mentioned the telem was not his hafez to his tir. He was stuck anyway.
What did that she say? That she said, the one witnesses that he had that the field belonged to him, so he has proof that the field belonged to him at one time, and he has proof that what? That it was stolen. So therefore,
he had proof, and why did he have to acknowledge?
Because he signed. Subsequently, he signed a shtar that came along and said what? That the other guy has border rights, and therefore the fact that he signed the border rights, that sounds like he gave up his claim. Right. It sounds like after the fact that when he owned it or not, but you must have sold it. Why would you sign a shtar? Why would you sign a shtar otherwise? Why would you sign a shtar that contradicts that? So it could be you sold it to him legitimately.
Then he had to say tell him. He had to mention the tell him in case he was forced to. So why is that a powerful Peshet here that gives him a ego? If he was forced to mention the tell him.
He came along and then said that what I signed on the shtar over there was because I gave him a telim. So the Abaye came along and said, pay him the telim. And then what did he come along and say back? No, I bought it back. And that she says that he's ne'eman. Why is he ne'eman? So he says over here in the note, טענה זו מתקבלת אף בלי שום ראיה. because הפשע עשה לפנסיה יתיר. כיוון שעדים מעידים שהשדה פעם אחת הייתה של האב, we have witnesses that are testifying the field belong, ונגזלה was stolen, הרי כל זכותו של המחזיק בתלם מבוסס רק על הוראת האב. The whole telem only comes to the muhzak because of the father's testimony, which means otherwise nothing belongs to him. ונעשה תלם סימן על שמו של מחזיק, לכן נאמר האב will say, לפרש שההוראה הייתה נכונה רק בזמן שעתם על השאר. Which it's true. When I signed on the shtar, the telem belonged to him. But guess what? I took it back. Mashma, now here's the point. שלשי סובר שאפשר לומר הפשע עשה לו פשע יתיר, אפילו כשהתיר, כשאתם נאמן זמן רב אחרי ההודעה. That's what they're saying in Rashi. Even though this happened at different times, that's the Hadush in Rashi over here. That normally הפשע עשה לו פשע יתיר, we say it as it's happening at the same time. Here, we're saying no, that at the time that you bought the one time when the shtar was sold, you sold it then. And later on, you're coming along to say, no, I bought it back. And you're saying in the iman to say I bought it back because you were believed at the time that the whole field was sold to you, was sold to the other guy, and it was stolen, I'm sorry, because you had a shtar, you had edim that say it was stolen. So the machlok amongst the Rishonim over here is, do you say a pesha asa pesha yatir in different times? But I don't know why it's not besides that fact that it's at separate times. The pesha. What's the question? Why is it not a?
So the question is asking.
Why is it not a good pesha yatir?
Never knowing the times. I got the times. I will tell you I got the times. But the point is, I was forced by the Dayanim to admit it. I was not coming forward and saying, "You're right." To begin with, I tell you the story. It was the Sadeh, I was forced, it was a telem, I give you everything.
Right.
His claim is saying he didn't say everything to begin about everything. The Dayanim like force him to go step by step. So if you go step by step, it's not Pesha Amar Pesha Metir. You force me to go through the process. If in the beginning you come to me and said, yeah, I admit, I tell you the whole story, that's Pesha Amar Pesha Metir. But his claim is saying, Ya Habibi, it's not Pesha Amar Pesha Metir. You force me to go through the process. Like I did not volunteer the information. I didn't have a choice. That's this question, and it's a valid question. Yeah.
Right? Then he would be trouble.
Yeah. It was voluntary. He forced. Exactly. He didn't volunteer from the beginning. Right.
Even if it was the same time,
Exactly.
put that aside.
Never mind the time. Yeah.
Look at Tosafot for a minute. Tosafot says Tema in Ta'an. Amai ne'eman. Why is he ne'eman? Tosafot says. Ho'il ve'odad delab shelo. Since already was modeh that it's not his. He'ach yakol lit'on tshuv hazati ve'lakachti. V'chi tema ne'eman b'migu. Yiba'e lo habe hatam. Ve'lo haba modeh lab miltai. So he says why? And then Tosfot goes down and he answers, and he says that we're talking about a specific case. The Matzina lefaresh hacha, the mighty yon she'en ktav yedei ha'edim yotzim makom acher. That the star that he has, they cannot be verified. V'lachen ne'emar lomar hazati v'lakachti b'menu migu diba'e amar mezuyaf. Aha. That's just for the answer, which is he explains a different migu over here. He says this shtar that he signed his name on, he says he could have claimed that the whole shtar is mizuyaf in the first place because they cannot verify the signatures. So if he wanted to, he could have nullified the whole item. He could have nullified the whole document. That's a migu. If he wanted to come along and have a better claim, he could have told the court, by the way, this shtar that I signed on, prove it. It's mizuyaf. He didn't invalidate. He said, you know what? I'll give it to you. It's good. But you know what? I bought it back from him. Well, that's the way Tosfot studying the. I don't think that might not be the she of a pesha asad peshetim. Unless you want to stick that into the she, that pesha, which means I validated the shtar where I didn't have to. I could have had a better claim. So then you have to believe me when I say that I bought it back.
And why did you ask him for the shtar for the purchase of the telem back?
He doesn't have to show that shtar. He doesn't have it. That's the point. He doesn't. If he has it, of course. That's the whole point. He's ne'eman. That's the point. That's the strength of his bigu. Again, you understand according to Tosafot, at least what the claim is, David?
Yes. So his strength is that he could have said the shtar was
Mizuyah. He could have invalidated the shtar in the first place. So if he validates the shtar, huh? It wasn't mikuyam the shtar. To answer your question, Tosfot saying she'en ktab yededim yotzim makom achar. They weren't able to validate the witnesses. They weren't able to validate the witnesses in a different place. So he could have said, "Mizuyah velo nechtam velo asiti siman." I didn't make a siman b'klal. You claim I didn't make a siman. Meheman. Haba lomar asiti siman. Ba'asati v'lakati v'menu. Very good. And therefore, the Gemara should have said, Tosfot says, that if the father was alive, he could have said that the shtar is mizuyaf. Why did the Gemara say that language? The Gemara said, if the father was alive, he could have said, I bought it back. So Tosfot says, so there's different claims that you're allowed to be to'en for yetomim. And certain claims you're not allowed. So therefore, he was only allowed to talk to the Bedin on claims that are acceptable for an apotropos to claim for Yetomim. And I don't think he's allowed to claim Mizuyaf. The apotropos cannot claim Mizuyaf. So all the apotropos is telling in front of the Bedin that the father could have claimed, I bought it back. How would the father be able to claim that he bought it back? Because he could have went through that whole process and say, the shtar was mizuyaf, and therefore they're giving him the bottom line claim what the father would have been able to say. Basically, this apotropos was incredible. He was able to retrieve the field back to the Yetomim, not only the field, but the telem also. The Gemara concludes and says,
Right, last point. When I see his language, it seems like saying the end of it, I see Ella out there. It seems like that he is saying that the Alpine is admitting with the fact that he actually signed as an ed, Imam Ma'afed. And he didn't have to do that. That was the whole reason why Shimon has the claim was because he signed as an ed on that side, acknowledging the borders. He didn't have to do that. We're going back in time, the actual time that he signed the side, it seems like what he's saying.
הפה שאסר הוא הפה שהתיר, ומאחר שיש עדים שהייתה שלו ונגזלה ממנו, אין לזה זכות באותו תלם, אלא על פיו של זה שעשה סימן לאחר. Okay, and that shtar over there that he signed, that's the only proof that Shimon has that the field is his. And therefore, while he's coming back and saying, but I bought it. You only have the tailing because I told you have the tailing.
And we tell him the God itself as the witness. That's the piece. But that's what I've seen saying.
And therefore,
it sits then, right? The whole reason why Shimon has any claim to the field came about through the signature of the Ben. When he acknowledged as an ed, he acknowledged the border.
Right now,
it's not for the Uben. Shimon would not have any claim because the Uben has proof that the field was his.
Correct.
And nevertheless, he signed acknowledging the borders that it belongs to Shimon. So Shimon's whole claim only comes from the Uben's signature.
And if I could take it back,
the signature itself is the eyes.
Okay? And therefore I could take it back. And why can I take it back? I gave it to you and I can take it back. Because if I wanted to, I could have claimed the whole shtar was mizuyah.
you have to sign that side and acknowledge the field belongs to you. I had to look at it belongs to me. The fact that I signed it, I didn't have to sign it. The fact that I signed it is my intention is side. So whoever said it, now I can come back and take it back. So he's saying, Ella, I'll keep those there, that's key.
Okay, and therefore,
And that's the pitch outside. So he do that. She's saying that the pitch outside what pitch is not just his verbal statement. It's the pitch outside
is the start.
the signature.
Okay, and that's the question on this.
No, I'm saying
No.
that's what I think the pitch is. I think.
Fine.
Is Hechal.
That's what she's saying. Saying basically that he signed the star, and therefore he took the field away from him, and now he's taking the field back from him through a peshet tiv by saying that the telim was sold back to him. Therefore, it belongs to him. The whole isur. I made the isur. I signed it to take it away from you. Then they what? I didn't have to sign that because I had witnesses already that said the field is mine. So what did I sign over it? I gave it to you. Why did I sign the star over there? For whatever reason why I signed the star. And therefore, if I signed the star to give it to you, I have the right to take it back. Especially that going into it, everybody knew that it was my field to start off with. But if I gave it to you, I can take it back. That's Rashi. Very good. Now we start. If you need to appoint a apotropos for Yatomim, get a guy like this. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows how to fight for the Yatomim. I was trying to take the field away from the Yatomim, and he kept on giving me counterclaims. And at the end of the day, he was right. Exactly.
Right there in the
Matnitin.
Yeah.
Last Mishnah of what time of the day. Mi shehalach lemedinat hayam. So the guy went overseas. Ve'abda derech tadehu. And when he came back, he lost access to his field. There's other fields around his field, and they swallowed up his access. And now, wherever he wants to go, I'm sorry, you can't access this. No entry, no trespassing. And now we can't get back at this field over here. And nobody's letting him go. Admon omer, yelech lo beketzara. And listen, for sure, he has access in one of these fields over here. He just doesn't know where the access is now. So therefore, they come along and say that they have to give him the shortest access path available to his field over there, and therefore the smallest path over there. Because bottom line, they took it. Nachamim say no. Let him pay. Let him pay for a lot of money. 100 maneh is a lot of money. Or yifrach be'avir, or let him fly, which means too late. I'm sorry, you don't have the access. Now we have to see what the case is talking about over here. Why should he lose his access? If he had it before he left, why should he lose it now when he comes back? Why Hakamim are coming to say that he has to fly over the field to get in? What's the reason for the Rabbana? Shapir Kamar Admon. I mean, Admon makes sense. The guy had a field that we don't know where it is, so give him the smallest access path. Amar Rabbi Yehuda Marav, v'shikifua arba'a bnei Adam me'arba ruchoteha. So basically, there's 4 different owners now that bought the adjacent fields surrounding his field. So therefore, each one could come along and say, go to the other guy. What do you want from me? What are you taking my field for? So the Gemara, so what's the reason for Edmon now? What's the logic over here? That why do you take the shortest field? Let him say, hey, go to the other guy. So the Gemara now explains the case. Which means, let's say originally there was 4 owners that owned the surrounding fields, and it was sold now to a new 4 people. 4 to 4, or arba'a da'atu mikawahad, or it's 4 people now that bought it from 1. Bottom line, if there's 4 people that own the field now, everybody will agree. Everybody agrees you can push him away. What are you coming to me for? Go to the other guy. Go to the other guy. Go to the other guy. No problem. Even and everybody will agree that he has no claim. What's the case? Where one guy bought it from 4. So now, bottom line, one guy owns it. So the field or the axis is definitely in one of his 4 fields. So the Hakamim make Admon makes sense over here. Admon Sabar, we call Makom Darka Itikabach. What are you going to tell me? It's on the other one, you're the owner. Go to the other one, you're the owner. So you're the owner of all 4 now. So the Manavchak Admon says, give me some access. So what do the rabbis claim over here? The Rabbanan Sabre, Ishatak Shatak. The Rabbanan say he could tell him like this. If you keep quiet, fine. However, if you don't keep quiet, I'm going to go back now and undo the sale and give the fields back to the original 4. Then you're really going to be stuck. Which basically is saying, listen, either you pay me off and I'll give you some access, otherwise I'll undo the whole thing. And now if I sell it back to the 4, there's no way you're going to get anything. Because each guy will come along and say, go to him, at least me, you can deal with. I have a very easy way to undo it. I got the shtarot. I go to Bit, I'll rip up the shtarot. I'll renege, whatever it is. I'll get out of it. So basically, he can pressure him and tell him, listen, I can undo the sale. Therefore, you cannot force me to give you any access. Pay me for it. Now, obviously, you cannot pay him a crazy amount of money. You cannot charge him a crazy amount of money because if he charges him a crazy amount of money, he'll call us bluff. If he says, I want $1 million, you know what? Undo the sale. And he doesn't want to undo the sale, the guy. It's a bluff. He's threatening. So therefore, obviously, they'll come to an agreement of a certain amount of money in order to get the access. Let's just read the Rashi over here, where it says, Ishatak Shatak. Right, Oziel, I'll give you a discount. And that's what basically he's saying. I'll give you a discount. If I'm going to sell the fields back to the other 4, you're stuck. You're not getting anything. All right, listen, pay me some money. I'll give you a discount. And therefore, you'll get your access. So that's the case we're talking about. Hahu da amar lehu. We got a story. A guy came along and he told his inheritors before he was about to die, Diklal lebrat. So I know you boys get the inheritance, but I want 1 palm tree to go to the daughter. Now he didn't say which one, but one. Azul yatme palug lenexelu yavu ledikla. Of course, what happened? Yitumim came along and they divided all the assets and they didn't give her anything. Samad of Yosef lememar hainu matnitin. That's our Mishnah. Which means what? Each one of the brothers could come along and say, he has the field, he has the tree, he has the tree. Each one took it. Now she's coming onto the Beit Din. Hey, brother, give me the tree. And there's 4 brothers there. You go to the other brother. You go to the other brother. So therefore, it sounds like it's our Mishnah. You can keep on pushing them away. It sounds like according to Hakamim, at least, according to the Mishnah. Actually, it sounds like according to everybody. Even Admon would agree in such a case where there's 4, where there's many brothers, they can all push them away. Read the Rashi over here. Hainu matnitin. I don't know why Rashi says Kerabana. This is even like Edmon. I don't know why Rashi committed himself. Like this is only like Kerabana. We just learned according to Edmon that if there's more than 1 guy, each guy can start pushing off and saying, "You go to him, you go to him, you go to him." Kavrat should be even going like Edmon.
Yeah, but it originally belonged to 1 person. He belonged to the father.
Yeah, so look at the Gemara. The Gemara comes along and says, Amale Abaye Midameh. Well, is it analogous? Hatam in the Mishnah called Had Bad Matzimat Chele. Everybody's able to push each other off. So that's the case we're talking about, where everybody can push each other off. Aval Hacha Dekla Gabayu. Over here, bottom line, the dekel is definitely by them. What do you mean the dekel is definitely by them? Yeah, it's definitely by them, but by who? Keep on pushing it off. Which means initially when it fell from the father. And since it fell from the father, the dekel was over there. And therefore, you cannot come along now and get a Yerusha where the father clearly said one of these over here is not part of your Yerusha. And therefore that she says, right, which means you were all, it's different than a field where each you sold it to the 4 different people. So I was not obligated to give you the path. You go to the other guy. It's 4 different things. But here the father put it on all the brothers. You got to take care of your sister. And he didn't say which one is obligated to take care. It was on all of you to take care. But it's different than the Mishnah. In the Mishnah, each guy comes and says, I bought a field. I don't know anything about an access. Go to the other guy. And it's true, it's 4 different items and they were not connected to each other. But here, the Yerusha is connected to all 4 brothers simultaneously. And basically, what's the father telling the brothers? You're all obligated to take care of your sister. So the Hayuv is really on each one. So the brothers cannot come along and say, go to him, go to him, go to him. So now what do you do? But that question is now what do you do? So the Gemara asks, what's the fix? Give her a dekel and redivide the fields, which we basically do over. Give her a dekel, and now let's divide everything up once again. Last case. Guy comes along and says, Deklal lebrat. I want to, before he dies, I want my daughter to get a dekel, a palm tree. Shachib v'shabik tere palged de dekla. He died. He left some regular palm trees, but he also left palm trees that were in half. What does that mean, palm trees that were in half? That he was partners with. Let's say he had a partner with a palm tree. So 50% of this tree belongs to him and 50% of that tree belongs to him. Now, what do the Yitomim want to do? The Yitomim know they have to give their sister a palm tree. They'd rather give her the 50%, 250%, because it's a headache to deal with this partners know that. Give her those fields, let her deal with the 50% items. 250s equals 1. And then instead of giving her a field, a good tree, a full tree. So the Gemara says, so they brought the kasher to Rabbi Asher, and the question was like this: do you call 2 halves of a dekel, or do you call them halves? That's the question. Lawyers got to read the document. It says, I want my daughter to get a dekel. Does a person call 2 halves of a dekel? Or no? They do call it that. And therefore you can call 2 halves of a dekel. Read Rashi. He was partners. He had regular dekalim, and then he had these part. I'm going to read it again. He had dekalim that he was partners in. He also had other dekalim. And the question by Yitomim they want to give him the half ones. Why? So the question was, Karu inche yada ala tachtona. For sure, the daughters has the weak position. Boys inherit, girls don't inherit. So therefore, they really have the stronger upper hand over there. They're only coming because there was a last will and testament that said, give us something. So therefore, the Gemara came along and said, you can call a dekel 2 halves of a dekel, and therefore you pay them off like that. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen. So tomorrow morning, remember, we'll do the daf after Shacharit. That's about 10 to 8 or 8 o'clock, depending on when we finish. Tomorrow, go through. Beautiful.